Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey says he's filing a lawsuit against the state of New York after Donald Trump's conviction last month. On social media, Bailey posted, "I will be filing suit against the state of New York for their direct attack on our democratic process through unconstitutional lawfare against President Trump. It's time to restore the rule of law." Bailey says this lawsuit is an effort to fight back against a rogue prosecutor and alleges that the verdict sabotages Missourians' right to a free and fair election. A jury convicted Trump on May 30th on 34 falsifying business records in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through a hush money payment to a porn actress. Trump's sentencing is scheduled for July 11th. Kelly, I think that this is just one of the things that was to be expected. We saw a lot happen during the case. Many people showed up, many officials showed up as he came out every day talking after his case. I think that this was probably to be expected. What's your take on this?
It's expected, but it's also annoying, like most things that are happening surrounding Trump, MAGA, the right, and the like, mainly because in his case, mind your business. Worry about Missouri. Why are you suing New York? Right? Why are you using taxpayer dollars in Missouri to do something in a whole nother state that is frankly outside your jurisdiction? Do you have the power to do that? Sure. Should you? No. And that's where I'm at with it, right? And if you really want to dig deeper into it, Missouri is not that rich of a state. It is as far as economy and all of those things regarding economy, jobs, classes, housing. I mean, pick an issue that affects the rest of the country, but certainly in the Midwest, you got other things to worry about, sir. Let's focus.
Matt, a lot of resources being used anytime that you file a lawsuit, but when you look at the lawsuit itself, just content-wise and argument-wise, anything persuasive in there?
Absolutely not. Judge Manning rules that this case is dismissed upon its filing because they don't standing. First off, Candace, ask me these questions first and not Kelly because she stole my thunder, okay? Where I was going to go. Exactly this issue.
Sorry.
I'm messing. They don't have standing. She's 100% right. I don't think Missouri can sue New York for a criminal prosecution under New York laws. Customarily, as I'm sure you know, if states are going to sue each other, it's going to be in federal court because they're two sovereigns, and there would have to be a reason. Good example, Texas and New Mexico are embroiled in litigation over the Rio Grande River that runs, here through Texas. But this is not that situation. This is completely disparate states, and this is him attempting to get in front of his challenger, who I understand is supported by Mr. Trump. This is purely political. And this is the kind of thing, frankly, that should be unethical for him as an attorney to do. And two, something that the people of Missouri should be able to hold him accountable for. This is purely government waste. I think it's far-fetched to argue that Missourians are having their rights divested by a state criminal prosecution across the country in New York. This is purely political theater, and it's abhorrent that he was his office. But see, also, Ken Paxton does this kind of idiocy, so we're used to it at this point.
Yeah, frivolous lawsuit and no standing. Michael, when you think about this, I think that one thing it might have done, though, was show supporters of Trump that they've got politicians out there working so that, as Matt said, it becomes a political question to show that, they're doing what they need to do, even if it's nothing or ridiculous, they are doing something.
Yeah, when reading this article, that's what I was thinking, what Matt said, that Missouri has no legal standing. They're not the injured party. Because I was trying to figure out, okay, so how can they file the lawsuit and the criminal conviction of this convicted felon on 34 counts? It does not prevent him from still running in the campaign. So it does not prevent Missourians that want to hear fraudster. It does not deprive them of being able to hear this criminal. They can listen to this fraudster criminal all they want to. So it was just a nonsensical lawsuit, but this should serve as a clarion call to people who have an ounce of sense in this country, especially African Americans, of what's to come if this traitor gets back in office, who incited an insurrection to overthrow the government. OK, because if he gets back in office, he's not going to leave when his term is up. Dictators don't just give up power. That's not how dictatorship works. OK, no. So the second time is going to be much worse than the first time. This is why we have to stop this threat. All the lights are on the dashboard of democracy, and you don't wait till your house burns down before you replace the battery in the smoke detector. And the smoke detector has been chirping for a week. OK, so all the signs are there. But yeah, this is like the difference between a religion and a cult. In a religion, your savior dies for you. In a cult, you're asked to die for your savior. This is MAGA death cult, and they have to be stopped at the ballot box.
You know, I'm looking back at the tweet, Matt. He says this is a direct attack on our democratic process through unconstitutional lawfare against President Trump. But Matt, we saw weeks of due process. We saw weeks of the process in terms of he got a jury that was selected. There was a voir dire process. In fact, throughout the whole process, it was that was acting in a way that violated the Constitution and the democratic process.
I think you're spot on. You know, I think what's really problematic about this, and that we see as obvious political pandering, is that conservatives are always want to talk about local control. Don't bother us, big government. Here in the state of wherever, we're allowed to do whatever we want by virtue of our state. How is Alvin Bragg and prosecutor in New York not allowed to prosecute New York laws? There was no constitutional attack, no attack that Mr. Trump was divested of any kind of due process. This is precisely what conservatives say they want. The issue is it's outcome determinative here because they don't like the outcome. So now they're claiming the process is systematic, right? Or that it's an attack on people thousands of miles away. And it's not. I mean, we know that's malarkey. This is purely political theater. Also, I really like that Dapper and Lights metaphor, Michael. I might steal that for the future.
Kelly, let me close with you. We know when you put these prosecutors and the attorney general on the TV screen, it is not missed by many that they are all black. And this is not something that the attorney general, Andrew Bailey, I'm sure he did not. So talks about how the prosecutors and the attorney general are just overstepping their boundaries and guidelines. There are some serious hidden messages there, Kelly.
Sure. So your audio cracked a little bit, but I think I got the gist of what you're saying. But I want to touch point, which relates to your point, Candace, about how much we have tolerated as people who are not aligned with Trump and MAGA and the right, you know, the extreme right, if you will. And I feel like, you know, the analogy of having a frog in boiling water or, you know, some type of amphibian, lobster, whatever, in the boiling water, and you just in cold water, and you just slowly crank up the heat. And as the heat rises, they get more comfortable, and all of a sudden they're dead because they're boiled and they don't even know it. I feel like that's where we are as a country, but more specifically with the democratic process and the democratic powers that be, right? Because at the end of the day, we really did take Trump as a joke in 2016 and prior, right? And every single year since then, there has just been increments of just pure BS. But because it wasn't as bad as the time before or whatever, it's just like we've gotten acclimated to chaos to the point when Project 2025 is implemented. And unfortunately, it will be implemented because we are the frogs in the boiling water. We are at a loss, right? And we had the time, we had the tools, we had the resources, but because we were so comfortable in this hot tub, we don't have a plan to combat the ultimate chaos that will be Trump. Whether or not he gets into office, I'm not trying to speak his election went into existence, but the project itself is more than Trump. The project itself is more than the presidency. It is literally every aspect of the democratic process, every aspect of the American experiment being upended. Right? So even if he doesn't get into office, that plan will still go into effect. But because we just took the boiling pot of water for a hot tub, my fear is that we are going to be comfortable even in the ultimate chaos.
And as you said, ultimately by some ridiculous death that we saw coming. Listen, all these building blocks, we have to be careful about, see what people are doing and know the reasoning behind what they are doing. Because as the Attorney General, of course he knew this was a frivolous lawsuit and would be dismissed right away.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties had waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? Ready, ready, ready. We are a resurrection, and we are ready.